I found 2 timestamp issues in my code this week, which were costing me serious tokens and serious money. So I'm going to talk you through what I did and how I fixed it, and hopefully it'll stop you making the same mistake. So this is to do with context caching and how LLMs deal with messages you send in and how they cache it and how you're billed for it. So when you send a message to an LLM, it's made up of a few parts. So at the very top of so just think of it as like a stack of messages, like as you see inside of the chat window, with some hidden ones at the top. So at the very top, you've got the system messages. These are the instructions that the system you're building give to the LLM to explain who the agent is, what it's supposed to do, how to deal with the customer, that type of thing. Then underneath that, you get the chat history of what's happened so far with the person who's interacting with it. So say you've had 10 goes back and forward, you'll have user messages like hello, LLM says hello, then it's like you go through and you do a bunch of messages. And at the very bottom is the current message that the user has sent. And each turn to the LLM, these are sent in, and the LLM reads them and responds. Now, when it does do that, when it reads the messages in, it does this thing called tokenizes the text into basically like a representation that it can understand and process. And every time that happens, it's expensive. So they use this concept called caching, where they will pre-tokenize and store the tokenized text. So next time you request, it uses the stored cached version. And to do this, you basically set a marker in the messages you send and say, okay, from this message here, everything before it is static, it's not going to change, so you can cache it safely. Everything after this marker is new, so we want to put this into the cache for the next turn, basically. But what I'd done was I'd inserted a timestamp into one of the system messages, which meant that every time that system message went in, it invalidated the cache, which meant that it had to re-tokenize the entire message chain every single time, and I was charged top whack for that. So typically with the pricing, cached messages are 10% of the normal cost. So every single message I was sending in was costing me 10 times what it should have. So that was the first problem to do with timestamps, which was, and I thought that fixed it. I was trying to work out why I was spending so much money, kept getting like ka-ching from Anthropic. Huge bill. It was because of the bloody timestamp in the system message. The reason I put it there is because obviously the LLMs have a cut-off date and they get confused at what day it is. So I had to put it in there because I was planning content, so you needed to know exactly what day it was. So the solution was move the timestamp to the very most recent message every single time, and that meant you could cache everything else. I just thought I'd better explain what a timestamp is. So a timestamp is essentially, it's the current day and time. So the reason this is a problem is because it changes every single millisecond, and that's why the messages were changing, because the timestamp was changing every single time. I thought I'd better explain that because it might not be that clear why the timestamp caused a problem. It wasn't a specific time, it was the current time, which changes every second. Now, that was the first one I found. I then found another one where similar concept, where I was injecting in a different system, a different platform I'm building, one of my development tools. It was injecting a timestamp with a hook. Every time a user sent a message, a hook would fire, which is like a process that happens when a message goes in, and that was injecting a timestamp as well, which meant that, and it was from the hook injected some extra information which rarely changed, but this timestamp meant it was invalidating that chunk every single time and costing me money and tokens. And so all I did was just move the timestamp into the very last message, and it solved it. So it's actually saved me an absolute fortune. So be careful what you do with timestamps. Always stick them at the very last, most recent or near most recent message, and never at the top of your message chain. Otherwise, you're going to get charged full whack for all of your LLM calls. So go out and make some cool shit.